episode number 96 with Alex Fitzgerald. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton, and thank you for tuning in. We have a special guest for you, return guest. He was on before in episode number 35, and now he's back for 96. Alex Fitzgerald, yes. He's back on the podcast. I was not able to make this interview, but Mike interviewed him, and they talk about rap battles, poker, life, what it's like living down in Costa Rica. Really good interview. And then we'll do a strategy bit at the end of the podcast. Let me think of what's new. My wife is, as you guys know, she's a flight attendant, and she's based out of Dallas right now. And we got some good news. I can't remember if I said it on the podcast or not, but she's getting based out here in LA. So she's been driving down to LAX and then flying out to Dallas, which is like a 3-hour flight, and then starting her work cycle, having to fly around, and then once she's done that, then she'll get several days off, and then she'll have to take another 3-hour flight back to LA, and then drive all the way home. Well, anyways, beginning of November, she's going to be based in LA, so we're both really excited about that. That's going to be nice. But she just got back from one of her trips, and she FaceTimed with me last night, and she shows me on FaceTime the little closet where you'd normally put in the apartment she's got, which is where you could put a washer and dryer. And so you guys know what a dryer vent looks like. It's about a 3 or 4 inch, probably a 4-inch hole that basically goes. You hook the dryer tube out there so that the hot air from the dryer gets spit out onto the outside of the house. Anyhow, she opened up that door, because she uses it to keep the vacuum cleaner and broom and mop and stuff in there, and she just uses the laundromat next door. But she opened the door, and she thought she saw something, like a little animal. So she gave me a call, and she says, "Honey, I don't know what to do." She's deathly afraid of cockroaches and spiders, and let alone a rat inside her closet. And so she said, "I don't know what to do," and she was crying, and I was like, "Okay, hang on, just relax. I'm going to call the local fire station down there, and they'll come out and they'll get it for you." And she said, "Oh, they would do that?" And I said, "Yeah, hang on, So I give Dallas the fire station a call that's right by her house, and I tell the guys what's going on, And so then I call her back and I say, "Okay, they're going to come down there and they're going to take care of it for you." And so she calls me back, and after they left, and I said, "So, well, what happened?" And she said, "Well, I pointed to the closet. They asked where was it, and I pointed to the closet. And then they went over to the closet, and she said she promptly ran outside in her pajamas and watched from outside the apartment. And they opened up the closet, and they got a plastic bag. Apparently, it was dead. It expired. She'd been gone too long from the apartment. So the little animal came out of the dryer vent, which was up about 3 feet from the floor. So I don't know if it was a rat or a squirrel or what, but it crawled in, and then it made a mess of the closet and then expired. Poor little guy. But she asked the firemen, she said, "Well, is it dead?" And they said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, what is it?" And they're all, "Well, it's dead." And she says, "Yeah, but what is it? Is it a rat or what is it?" And they said, "Well, it doesn't really matter. It's dead. You probably scared it to death." They put it in the bag, and then they walked out. So Dad scored some brownie points there. She was glad to have that thing out of her dead little animal out of the closet. And I'll be collecting on those brownie points here, hopefully in a couple days when she gets home. Well, we have our interview with Alex coming up. But first, I want to tell you about Elliott Rowe meditation tapes. Yes, Elliott Rowe, no matter what your game is, whether you play online cash, live MTTs, sit and goes, spin and goes, whatever your game is, he's got an MP3 for it. And I swear to God, they work. I was just listening to one yesterday, actually, and I've been kind of beating myself up. I was like, I haven't studied in a week and a half. I haven't even reviewed a hand history. And I thought, okay, let me. My plan for the day was to watch football actually, but I listened to this MP3. It's about 12 or 13 minutes long, and the next thing I knew, I was on hour number 2, and I was reviewing hand histories. These things really, really work. He's got one for studying. He's got one for bankroll management. He's got them all. Click on the link in the show notes. You can try one out for free. It's a 7-minute tilt buster. I like that one for live tournament breaks, actually. When you've got like a 15-minute break, it gives you enough time to go out to the car, listen to this little tape, kind of get a mental reset, and then you're ready to go for the next 2 hours. He's got them for final tables, everything. Use the code HUPoker, and you'll get yourself 10% off on one of his. Try the free one first. Just try it. And you got nothing to lose. It's free. You can put it on your phone, your Android, your iPhone. I just have them all on my phone. It's super convenient. You plug in your headphones or your little Bluetooth device, and you listen to it before you play. So, check it out, HU Poker for 10% off. And without further ado, here is Alex Fitzgerald.
How you doing, Mike?
Yep, very good. Thanks. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, good to talk. We got to talk for a whopping 14 seconds in Vegas. So, yeah, it's good to finally talk to you, man. How's the kid in the karate?
Pretty good. Pretty good. He hasn't broken any boards with his head yet, but he's looking good.
But none of the cool Chuck Norris moves yet?
No, he hasn't quite got those yet. Our 14 seconds in Vegas constitutes a pretty funny story, though, that I think captures. I immediately started talking to Carlos about some hand, and I'm like, yeah. I was thinking of cold 4 betting this guy, and Alex was putting his bag down on the couch, and he just stopped. Cold 4 betting. What is this? 2012?
I forgot about that.
So the expression doesn't suffer fools well, which I respect. But it's just like, Carlos and I like discussing hands, and we're like, oh, I guess we just can't do it with Assassinato around here. What the hell's going on here?
No, I haven't heard that in a while, man. I was like, whoa, bringing back. Because remember, there was a time when everybody and their dog was trying to do the cold 4 bet, even if it meant absolutely nothing, even if it was for 11 big blinds at the beginning of a 300 big blind tournament. And then they would really be into telling you about it. So I was just very shocked to hear it again, but it sounded like you actually had a reason. But yeah, no, I wasn't suffering fools. That's not nice.
Oh,
man.
Okay.
No, I hadn't heard it in a long time. I was like, oh, wow, like that's what we're doing, apparently.
It's like he walked into a fart-filled room. I'm like, no, it's just...
I'm sorry. Yeah, that would... Well, okay, me and... oh, man. Well, and that was after we played the main event, 12 hours or whatever it was. And then, I just couldn't sleep that night. And I'm not exactly that good at communicating to people. So sorry about that. Didn't mean to...
No. I wasn't hurt, but it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, that tends to be why I get the reputation.
This bastard's trying to sell me a fucking $100 book just to not be embarrassed next summer. He can know.
It's $25. It's $25.
Oh, okay.
And I think if I was selling books, I'd probably be a little bit better. I'd probably try to be a little bit nicer. But I don't know, man. I have a really big problem where when I'm thinking something, I blurt it out, which is really good for poker lessons because I usually have to say things that are super uncomfortable to get people to change their game. But, relationships, going to the post office, living, breathing, being a human being, I find those quite difficult. So, yeah, sorry about that.
No problem. Well, maybe we can talk about that later because from a little bit when I looked at your book and listening to your recent podcast, a lot of, you say your own studying deals with when to barrel, post-flop aggression and bluffing opportunities.
Right.
And not necessarily construct, what is your 4-bet bluffing range?
Well, the 4-bet bluffing range, it is in the book, The Myth of Poker Talent, but I do make a point that this was a very popular play, which I do still think has a bit of a, people kind of assign it a romantic value that I don't really think it really deserves, because if you do, the numbers that I look for when I'm going to cold 4-bet somebody is they're opening 40% of the hands and they're the guy who's 3-betting is 3-betting 15% of the hands. And then you kind of want to have an ace blocker, and you're assuming the person is not one of those people who can flat a 4-bet, which was another reason I was critical of your play. It's, you don't know that these days. Like, these days they might just go, oh, lol, pot odds. And if you only cold 4-bet a very small amount, that's actually not even that big of an issue. You know, that's not that big of a problem. But yeah, typically I'll use an ace blocker. The first guy's got to be opening like 40% of hands, which, by the way, is pretty hard to know. It's really hard to know somebody's opening that wide. And that goes to all the suited 2-gappers, all the dry aces and stuff like that. And then the other guy's got to be 3-betting like every ace. He's got to be 3-betting some small pairs and turning them into pairs. And both of them just have to lock in and suddenly be tournament specialists once you 4-bet, which of course becomes the problem because most people who are opening and 3-betting those ranges typically don't really think about tournament tournament stacks in those terms. So that tends to be the difficulty. I think if you're going to do anything these days, you have to 4-bet semi-bluff. You have to do it with a suited connector. Like a 10-9 suited isn't exactly what you would normally want to cold 4-bet. But in these days where everybody flats you, if you think they're just going to flat you and then just take a look at a flop, and if they hit nothing, they're going to fold. I like those plays a lot at the beginning of live tournaments. So, but that tends to be where it stops as far as me with cold 4-betting.
So you're happy with the book?
Yeah, I'm really happy with the book. I mean, obviously, you know, you always wish you had, I mean, it's kind of like the closest I could come up with a similar place is, like, I think most people in college, like, had to write a thesis. I never did that, so I never knew what it was like to just put a year of your life into something and then just send it away. And to know, you know, people are obviously going to have something to say about it, but the reception's been pretty good. I try to make it very clear at the beginning of the book, look, I'm not even that good of a poker player. I just try to listen a little bit more than other people and try to study a little bit more. And these are the things I've found while studying. And I find when you come in with that attitude, I could be wrong. I want the idea of the myth of poker talent is a lot of people are wrong when it comes to poker tournaments. And the only way you're going to get better is not taking what they say as gospel, and that includes me. So I put a lot of strategies in there that I really find fun. I really find help me cash in tournaments and do well. But if you can find a way to disprove it using the book, that would be even better. And a lot of people seem to really be into that. Whereas I find there's a lot of poker pros that, you know, they write like good books, but like I remember being young and reading like TJ Cloutier's book, and it's like, this seems like really good advice. It's just, I don't know how this guy totally plays. I don't know why he does all these things. I bet this would work if I applied it, but I don't know why I'm doing it. And if you don't know why you're doing it, you can't adjust it at the last second to save your ass, which is a huge part of No Limit Hold'em tournaments. And so I really try to give people the idea of like how you can acquire chips and know how to do it well, given all the poker tools that are out there, and how that can translate to cash games as well.
So The Myth of Poker Talent is the name of the book.
Yes,
we
sir.
probably should start with that. So where'd you come up with the title, and how does that kind of inform the book?
The subject. Yeah. I had all these ideas on my desktop for years that was called Talentless Poker, right? And it was my favorite folder on my desktop because you could open that and I could send a couple ideas in my lessons. And I really like those strategies because, like, say you get a guy who he's a casual player. A lot of my students, I've worked with over 1,000+ students. A lot of them, you know, they got other stuff to do. You guys know what this is like. You have another job, you have your kids, you have whatever, you know, and you don't have time to reinvent the wheel. So I kept coming up with all these new strategies that, you know, I would explain how it worked, but if you could remember the beats, it would get you going a lot further in poker tournaments. So instead of focusing on 3-betting all the time, or opening all the time, which is what tournament players love to do, we talked a lot about check raising and donk betting and 3-betting just with the intention to get the lead pre-flop. And as that kept expanding, I did Excelling at No Limit Hold'em. I wrote a chapter for them, and with Jonathan Little. I kind of had the idea, you know, they gave you a shot to be in a book with Phil Hellmuth and Mike Sexton. You better bring it. because yeah, if that's not going to look too good, if Jonathan Little like vouches for you and you don't really bring it. So I sent in my manuscript, and they said they really liked it. It was a little too long, but they liked it. And eventually we were talking about maybe doing an entire book of this, and I just opened that folder, and then I realized I could put all these strategies together, but in a year and a half, maybe a bunch of them wouldn't work. And if you didn't know where they came from, you were just going to keep applying them and just keep sinking yourself. That happens a lot in poker tournaments. People watch these training videos from poker pros that, let's say, were super successful 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and they haven't updated their strategies. And, they're trying to make a buck now making training videos. And, the strategies you're trying to apply would have worked really well as an algorithm back in 2013, but it fails miserably in 2016. But if you knew why they came up with those plans to begin with, you could perhaps make new strategies of your own. And if you were nice enough, as some of my students have been, they write me going, you know what, I think you're wrong on this one. And yeah, there's a lot of times I have to change things. And that's kind of where I got into the idea of the book. And the idea of the book was I said the myth of poker talent because people thought I was a lot better at poker than I was, but really it was working with my students, and it was just trying to improve on this method all the time that helped me consistently improve. But the joke is you can never stop. Like even the last couple months, I've had a bunch of like real life stuff come up, and it's like even 2 months, if you're not working, it really takes its toll. But if you're just working every day, staying abreast of the situation, what people are saying, what's going on in poker, what people's tendencies are. If you have these tools in the book, if you have these ways to study with Card Runners EV and Flopzilla, you will be able to find adjustments before the tide turns again.
I've only read a couple pages of the book, but it seems like I'll let you do a summary. This is pretty high end. Is that fair to say? This is not a book for beginners, right? I mean, they should start off by reading.
You probably will not find this the easiest learning curve with this book. By the way, I'm feeling terrible now with Mike now because I apparently just berated him. He was letting me stay in his hotel room, and I guess my first impression was to yell at him. I'm sorry about that, Mike. I'm the worst ever. Oh my God. Carlos has to apologize for me again, I'm sure. But yeah, anyway. No, sorry about that. Yeah, no, it's definitely the learning curve is, I started the beginning. The real fun thing about the book, though, was I was trying to pretend like, I kind of was talking to myself, and I was like, dude, who the F are you, right? You have no idea if you're ever going to get to publish a book again. You know what I mean? So don't leave anything out there. Just put it in because you're not Phil Hellmuth, you know what I mean? Nobody's just dying to give you a book deal. So show people, if they took the time to read your book, like make it worth it for them. So I start from the very beginning. I think you should really read those sections. They're not that difficult, but I have a section, it's called What Poker Is. And I really think it sounds really simple, but when I finally got the things in my head, when I finally got it through my head to think about poker the way I wrote about it in that section, the game became much more open to me. Whereas before, I think a lot of times people imagine poker is more like a sport. Well, they used to call Phil Ivey the Tiger Woods of poker, and Phil Ivey told everybody to shut the F up about that because there's no such thing as a Tiger Woods in poker. He said, the luck's with you some days, the luck's not with you the next, right? And that really people forget, like poker is about offering bets to people that are not profitable. That's all it is. You're offering bets to people that are not profitable. Now, if you offer a roulette wheel in Vegas and, the guy who walks in, the regular punter comes in and hits a string of reds and takes some money from you, you can't really get angry. And that's the same thing when you're looking at poker from a different lens. But I think a lot of people come into poker and they think like, if I try really hard, if I work my ass off, if I just believe I can do it, you know what I mean? If I set goals, and if I think positively, I'm going to become a professional poker player. And that's absolutely not true. You're going to have to be very pessimistic. An optimist gets 20 in blackjack and goes, hit me. That doesn't sound like a really good professional poker player, right? So you're going to be a pessimist. You're going to have to work ungodly numbers of hours. And it's because you're professional gambling. Never forget, at the end of the day, this is gambling, and people want to come into poker and expect certain things. You hear a lot of young men who believe poker is supposed to be like a sport. that if they just try real hard, things are going to work out. In a way, you are hustling. You are trying to hustle people. Poker originally was a hustling game, and you're still trying to out-hustle the other person. So bad things happen sometimes. I'm sorry. That's just professional gambling. The way I put it in the beginning chapters is much more nice than that. And then we take it from that point to, just the very, very simple bets. What does an open have to accomplish? What does a 3-bet have to accomplish? What does a 4-bet have to accomplish? And then eventually, I'm sure you found as you skimmed, it gets really messy as you get further in. Once you start triple barreling people and trying to figure out what your range should be when you're triple barreling, what they are possibly calling off with, and how often your play is going to work.
Well, the conventional wisdom I've heard poker players say is that, the books get old real quick. Yeah. But this one, I was just looking. You're such a lover of like Flopzilla and ICMizer and all that. I mean, even 5-10 years from now, although trends will change with bet sizing and this and that, I'm guessing this book will be a good primer on like how to use a HUD and why equity calculations are so important.
Yeah, thank you. That's probably the nicest thing anyone said about the book. Thank you for that. And it's really what I was trying to do was maybe it's not going to be Hold'em Manager in 10 years, but the stats are still going to be called the same things, and you're still going to be using them in the same ways. And maybe it's not going to be in Flopzilla, it's not going to be Flopzilla in 10 years, but it's going to be another hand range calculator, and you will be inputting the same parts of the range. And if you can get that kind of stuff, it's weird because in 100,000 words, you think you could say a lot, but I really only get to do a few Card Runners EV examples, a few Flopzilla examples, and even though those are really exciting, it's if you can take the book and keep studying for the next 5 and 10 years, it's just like a golf game. It opens up eventually. There's a lot of people that play golf for 20, 30 years, not expecting to be professional. Now they may go out onto the U.S. Open and have a real run, and the great thing about poker is you could possibly win the WSOP main event. But if you kind of go in with the idea of I'm trying to learn, you will get much, much better, much faster than the people who are out there for the money. And I can say that with full confidence because the first 5 years I was in poker, I played with a gun to my head. I had nothing else going for me. So I didn't learn that much. I just had to worry about making money and, putting food on the table. And that's not a great way to learn. Whereas, if you're really just focusing on the studying methods and enjoying yourself, I think you're going to get much better, much faster.
Well, maybe we can get back to the book in a few minutes. Of course.
All right,
Alex, you always got a bunch of shit going on.
Yeah, man, it's good. Still just living in Costa Rica, chilling. Not a whole lot. How's everything with you, man? What you been up to?
I almost finished a 2-liter bottle of Diet Dr. Pepper last night. That was my goal, and I didn't reach it. But today it doesn't bother me.
Today you succeeded. Yeah. You brought it
I would fail Jeopardy on world geography, but Costa Rica is not getting hit by this storm at all, right?
You know what? All the news reports said it was going to be 1,000 miles away. I said, cool, whatever. It has not stopped raining for 8 days. All the streets are flooded. It took me 30 minutes to go. It just took me 30 minutes to go 4 miles, like in small town Costa Rica. I can't, if you get into the capital, literally nobody is moving on the roads. You get out of your job at 5:30, you get home at 10. It's so bad right now. So yeah, I was actually kind of worried because it just stopped raining for a while, but for a long time, you could really hear it off my roof. And I was wondering if you guys were going to be able to hear me. But yeah, normally I do my webinars live. I have a webinar series going on right now, and I was supposed to do one tomorrow. I just have to record it tonight because I don't know if the rain's probably going to stop for 4 or 5 hours tonight. But tomorrow it might just be on for 10 hours and the streets are flooding and I can't get to anywhere with another internet connection and the electricity is down here. So yeah, apparently Costa Rica, not the United States. What I'm starting to figure out. Yeah, it can get flooded down here. It can get pretty bad. But yeah, I'm in a little city that used to be the capital of Costa Rica called Cartago, and it's not really a little city, but yeah, Cartago translates to Carthage, so it's always kind of a weird name. for those of you who don't know your world history, Carthage was plundered and then the earth was salted, so nothing could ever grow again. So yeah, it's kind of weird to name your city Carthage, but yeah. Anyway, I live up in the mountains. The mountains are close enough to the city that you can get like the really fast broadband, but at the same time, it's like really quiet here, and like my neighbors leave their front doors open, and there's never really been crime here. Whereas, there's some parts of Costa Rica you can go to. A lot of American poker players come down here, and then they flash money on their Facebook. They flash money when they're walking around. They go to the tourist districts where if you're a predator, you're just hanging out there. And then, they get held up, and, they go, Costa Rica is such a dangerous country. It's like, well, if you speak the most basic Spanish in the world and you don't hang out with tourists, you'll be just fine. So that's kind of why I hung out here. Exactly.
Even posh Paris hotels are dangerous if you're Kim Kardashian with $600 million in jewels dragging behind your bag.
That's a joke. They have gun control in that country.
Oh,
I thought that. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, yeah, it's everywhere can be unsafe. That was, man, a lot of, I don't know. A lot of stuff happening in the world these days. Every time I turn on the TV, I feel like I'm watching a reality show. So, with Kardashian in there, it's even weirder. But
it's really hard to distinguish, especially with Trump running for president. It's all just in one.
It's bizarre. Well, the worst part is everybody knows I'm not a Democrat, right? Like everybody who knows me knows that. And then they just automatically assume I'm a Republican, which I'm not either. So I've been apologizing for the United States for the last 6 months every time I meet somebody in Costa Rica. How could you vote for this guy? I'm like, hey, I didn't do anything. Like, what? Why do I have to become the inbox for American ideas? Like, what do you think? I'm going to run it up to Obama? Like, but yeah, anyway, yeah, that's been the libertarian ticket's a joke too. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, are you voting? Feel free to. Steve is a ardent Trump supporter, and
all right, nice.
I'm a less passionate, but we'll be voting for Hillary here. So I don't know. Do you have any? Feel free. Some people feel like David Chappelle has a joke about this. It's like there's guys who are like, "Oh, I was fucking my wife in the ass last night," who will share everything, who will like share everything about their life, but you ask them about politics. It's like, whoa, take it easy there, champ.
That's such a good analysis of white people. Yeah, they, Donald Trump seems like a fascist. Hillary Clinton seems like a socialist. I don't think Gary Johnson knows where he is half the time. I am not convinced that guy doesn't smoke weed every single day. I know my pothead friends. He looks exactly like them. You know what I mean? So I'm a libertarian, but I'm not voting libertarian. So then it really comes down to are you going to accept the lesser of two evils challenge, right? Which is, I think is totally fair, anyone who picks that, because, there's a lot of times like the United States had to ally with the Soviet Union at different times for a greater aim. People saying make love, not war is not what liberated the Jews in the death camps. I'm sorry, this is not how it happened. So you have, there's a lot of, I can see good cases for both. It just, I have no idea which one to pick, to be honest. I'm kind of letting my vote from abroad application slip to the deadline and just kind of hoping I space out for 2 days. Then I have an excuse. But now that I've talked about it here, I realize I don't. But no, I have no idea. I have no idea. I just hate politics. I want politics to be, I want the United States to be out of people's hair a lot more, because I feel like it's really overregulated and divisive. You know what I mean? Both sides are, they're firing up their sides to get votes, and that's really fine to get votes. But unfortunately, after all is said and done, you have 4 years to lead a country, and now everybody hates each other. So it's, I don't know. I don't know, man. I hate all these people. We'll see. I'm hoping for a comet to hit. I don't know. I have no idea. I think whoever is voting is far braver than me right now. I'll say that. And a lot of people, no, seriously, a lot of people are like, I'm not voting, act like they're doing something great. It's like, no, I'm being a wuss. I have no idea. You know what I mean? I don't want to say I supported either president in the coming 10 years. And you know what I mean? It's not very noble to throw it away on a libertarian who doesn't know where Aleppo is. So I don't know what to do. So anyway, Green Party all the way.
There we go.
Yeah, I get that 2%.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to like jump around. So,
All
but
good.
I was just reading your blog, and your blog is the same thing. It's like you'll talk about Genghis Khan, and then all of a sudden you go talk
Yeah.
about some flute recital, and you're bouncing around. So I feel
Yes, sir.
I can do the same thing. So what's going on? Do you have any? Do you have a rap battle coming up, or how's that going?
I do not have a rap battle coming up right now. I only get a certain number of days in the United States due to foreign residence, but I think I'm going to be in the States more next year, just playing the poker tournament circuit, because it just looks like some opportunities opened up there. So I'm probably going to be doing more of them. I want to do small rooms. Kind of every time what they do with me when I show up there is like, it's like a small venue. So they're like, or it's a small battle league, but they're like, oh, we can turn this into like Rich Whitey showing up here trying to upstage somebody. So we'll make this the main event and we'll get like 200, 300 people in here. And it's like, man, this is my third battle. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And then like, yeah, so I'm going to go back to like this small room stuff, actually rapping, like getting it. It's fun to make jokes about people, but at some point it just turns into a parlor trick, right? Like, ha ha ha, I pretend shot you better than you pretend shot me. And eventually it gets pretty ridiculous. But no, I just did a Christian event in Pittsburgh. That was different. So that was a cool one. It was pretty cool. They had a professional gambler on that ticket because I'm sure somebody had something to say about that. But yeah, we'll see. Probably January, February. There's some stuff opening up in California that seems like it might work. I'd like to go back to Texas, and just because that's a really real rap environment and you have to really bring it in that environment. But I don't know, Texas and California have had some problems with each other, the two battle leagues that I battled in, and I don't know who I'm going to piss off if I battle for whichever one. So, yeah, we got to figure that out. But, yeah, I'll be back. We'll be doing another.
So what is, especially now that the book's written, though, is this going to be something, a greater investment of your time? I mean, what do you now, what's passion number one now? Or is that a silly question when it comes to
No, that's a great question. No, passion number one is writing. I love to write in like all of its forms. It's really fun to write. I mean, I essentially battle rap is just, it's men writing poetry for each other. Like as manly as we try to make it when we wear the big hoodies that make us look big and we make gun noises and stuff like that. It's two guys screaming poetry at each other. And I like to write poetry. It's kind of cool to do it in the format of battle rap. I like to write about poker. I like to not write about poker. The problem is nobody's paying me to not write about poker right now. So I have to do that on my own time. But yeah, no, I'm just trying to write a lot of stuff. I'm doing a lot of the PowerPoints, presentations, because that's a way that gives me a chance to write, but at the same time, announce it and teach and all that stuff. And I get to teach like 20, 30, 40 people at a time. Or one of them, like 100, 150 people at a time. And that's really effective because if I was going to meet with all those people personally, that would take 100, 150 hours. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been in on. And I think I'm going to play a lot more live poker tournaments next year. I've been doing the suburban thing for a long time, but things have started to stabilize a little bit. So, things have changed a little bit. I don't want to say stabilize, but yeah, just probably just going to go back up to the States and play more of these. All the events I've been playing for years are just, like the big events and stuff like that. So when I go to these, like the Heartland Poker Tour, I go to like these small Venetian events, I'm like, this is just cake. This is awesome. These people don't know anything. And it's, because online, if there's a guy who's really good at poker, he's going to be on 14 different tables. And if a guy's not good at poker, he's going to play 2 tables. So there's a much greater chance I'm dealing with the 14 tabler than I am the 2 tabler. Live, that never happens. They just sit there and I get to meet people from all over the world. I love that. Apparently I get to curse out Mike, right. When I'm there, but,
I didn't cry myself to sleep that night. It wasn't a traumatic experience or anything. It was just,
No, I was trying to make a joke that would be, I cannot imagine anybody offending more people on purpose than I do on accident. So my apologies. That's that.
I had a special gift for Alex, a wrapped box of chocolate covered strawberries. I was there wrapped. I was going to bring them out to him. He said that, and I just went over to the bathroom and wiped a tear away and dropped him in the trash.
Oh my God, that was pretty good. Yeah. By the way, Mike is like 6'7", just so everybody knows. Like I know he's not actually that tall, but I was surprised. You don't meet many tall people in poker. I was very surprised how tall you are. And then does that get uncomfortable when you're sitting at the poker table? Do they make them for like 5'8" people at the 10-handed?
No, I'm comfortable. It's funny. The Euros are all really tall though.
Yeah, that's true. They got
poker. So that's because I'm used to being like the tall guy in the room, and there's a couple times I walked up a table, and not that I try to physically intimidate people,
right?
Or anything.
It helps. It helps. I mean, it's weird. Like in Costa Rica, I'm taller than most of the people here, and then I go to a poker table in the States, and yeah, it's with all these like Swedish models, and they're 6'5", perfect, piercing blue eyes, looking through my cards and 5-betting me. Cold 5-betting me, one step ahead of Mike. And they're, you know what I mean? And yeah, like I do feel a lot different. I'm like, I am short here. And I feel ridiculous when I'm 3-betting people. I'm like, how do I think I'm going to get away with this? They can see I'm only 6 foot, like I can't believe, I don't know. It's different. Well, this was a great discussion on height at the poker table. What other questions you'd have?
Well, I wanted to go back to the rap a little bit because I watched you battle Cobalt 45.
Oh yeah, you like
First
that
of all,
one?
it's on YouTube, and if anyone wants to see Carlos in the background, first of all, I was having trouble watching you because I have never seen him so happy in all his life.
Carlos,
I don't know if did he coach you up at all or something? He looked like a proud father watching his little league kid just hit a homer or something like that.
Pretty much, man. No, I mean, I'll spit my rounds before the event, and just because I did not grow up with this art form, I was way more into like hardcore punk and metal. He'll make a lot of points like that doesn't flow well, and then I'll listen to it and I'll go, wow, that doesn't at all. And it's really weird when you get into this, you think like, oh yeah, you write a bunch of rhymes and, you go up there and you say them real nasty to people and then you win, right? And then that's not it at all. You have to have a flow. You have to have a cadence. You have to have like a beat. And I think that the Cobalt 45 battle was really weird because they changed his opponent like 4 times. Eventually they got me to do it. The people who brought me on, the Texas group, they didn't even show. They took my money to show up, right? They took my appearance fee. And, they didn't show up because they missed their flight or whatever, right? So 3 of the battles got canceled. And essentially, I'd had like a stomach flu or something, right? Like I was incapacitated the week after that battle. And I felt like I was wheezing through every bar, right? Like my voice sounds so weird in that battle. But like at the same time, it was just, you got Carlos like a proud father behind you, and you just got to spit, man. You can't let him down.
Right.
You got to go. And
I'm not an expert, but I think you're definitely a lot better than like the Thesaurus battle. You're kind of.
Oh yeah,
You're
I'm not terrified.
There's just kind of monotone, I guess. Maybe I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
Where here, there's definitely you're rhyming slow, you're rhyming fast, and there's more inflection. And I mean, I wouldn't even know the proper language to analyze it.
You make a really good point, and that's the thing. You got to make it. You got to. My mom watches rap battles, right? She doesn't know the terminology either, but she knows what sounds good to her ear and what doesn't. And Carlos was really good at teaching me, like this is what real hip hop is, and then listening to that, whereas a lot of the rap I listened to growing up, and a lot of it's rap, it's not hip-hop, it doesn't really contribute to the culture in any way. It was essentially just really creative lines delivered really mean, and, they were kind of like stuff you could yell at your buddies, when you were just grab-assing at a bus stop, kind of half drunk, and I realized, wow, that's like rudimentary. That's really rudimentary rap, you know what I mean? Once you start, that's really rudimentary hip hop once you get into it. And you start trying to do the inflections and add up things. The other fun thing is trying to get as many syllables to rhyme as possible within a stanza. And that, there's if you can deliver like 3 punchlines in a 4-line stanza and have 12 of the vowel sounds match, that's like, you feel like you just, you yell Jumanji at the end, like I've won the game. I can't believe I've done this. And it's like putting crosswords together. And then you present it to, 8 people at a beach bar, and then it dies afterward. And that's pretty much it, But it's fun, it's different than poker because poker, it's poker is ruled by so many forces I can't control. But when I go to a rap battle, it doesn't matter. Everybody's equal at a rap battle. Like Bill Gates could come in there and get destroyed. You know what I mean? There's no way he can buy his way out of that. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to show. By the way, he's allowed to say anything. So they'll make fun of your alcoholism. They'll make fun of your wife. They'll make fun of
I watched a couple battles with Carlos, and maybe I'm such a. I kind of recoiled in horror a little bit, where I forget which guy was making fun of the Soros's that his father had just died.
Oh, Pat Stay, yeah, that was.
I'm like, shouldn't this be off? And it's like, no. Carlos is like, no, you go for everything here. I'm like,
no, whatever you can expect, it's gonna happen. You know what I mean? And there's, Cobalt 45 had a line about beating a woman. It's like the only time in the battle you can see me visibly shake my head and push out my prominent gut through my multicolored T-shirt. But other than that, but there was. No, he was, Well,
that one was pretty, I got to say, there was a good vibe for that one. Like, I looked at the beginning of the rap and it looked like some tough characters in the background.
Right.
But everybody was applauding both you guys.
Yeah, which is really weird when you're the road team, you know what I mean? But they were all, the Cali people are pretty chill. The Dallas people are really chill. It's a lot harder to make it in Houston because Houston's had, there's so many rappers from Houston. They've had that scene really cracking for about 20 years. And you come into Dallas, there's a lot of like young guys that are just really getting into it, and it's really good to be around that environment. But yeah, it's weird when the crowd turns against you. Like there was the battle versus Cannon, I choked for a minute. It's the only time I've ever like choked, and then I remembered my next line and I did the whole thing. But like you just bored the crowd for a minute, you know what I mean? And you're not getting them back, right? And I brought it with me to Santa Cruz. I was real prepared for that battle. So fortunately, they were really into it. That was really cool.
What was your best line of the day? I remember I was just thinking in prepping for battle rap, you've got to be so happy when the guy you're battling is fat because it's just, you've got,
yeah.
It's like a gimme. It's like starting a basketball game, like where like 3 or 4 layups or something, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, because like, you know what I mean? The battle I had after that was, it's a skinny black guy, but I can't say anything about him being skinny or black, you know what I mean? Because look at the white guy here. What an asshole racist, right? And then, but you can make a bunch of jokes about him being short. That's totally fair game. And yeah, so you turn it into him being short or you turn it into the guy being fat, right? And yeah, when he's fat, it's just a gimme. You just come up. Well, and it's like when you're freestyling, quote unquote freestyling growing up, you always have to have fat jokes. Because if a fat guy gets in there and he starts spitting and you do not have a fat joke, the crowd is going to think you're a dumbass, right? So right. Yeah, I got to do my favorite ones. I updated it. In the old days, it used to be, seriously, your family should be mad when you walk in front of the TV. They miss an entire season of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, that was the one I was gonna share.
That was the one in the old days. It was Lost, right? Because Lost was the only like really long show that everybody knew about. Now you can pick like 30 different shows to put in that. But yeah, the thing I was worried about is like, I'm from Seattle and that was the West Coast. I was like, for all I know, you just end up trading bars like growing up. For all I know, they've heard that bar 50 times. You know what I mean? So when it got that first huge reaction, I was like, oh, Jesus Lord, thank God. Right. And then, yeah, Fat Boy, I said your blood pressure's in pot. What was it? I can't do it right now. Blood Boy, I said your, oh, no. See, you can tell I'm a really good rapper. Fat Boy, I said your blood pressure's unstoppable. I heard you and your chick made a porno flick. It was called Missionary Impossible. That was another good one.
That was that would have gone.
Yeah,
Cobalt had it for a couple good too. One of them involved like brushing your teeth through your ass. I forget what that was.
Yeah, no, he made up half the battle there, and I didn't win. There was no decision or anything, but I can't say I won that battle because anyone who's watched that battle, his performance is more seamless, and he's making fun of my shirt. He's making fun of the way I walk. You know what I mean? And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, he had to have come up with all of that the day of the event, right? And I'm just, how do you do this so seamlessly, right? And then it's crazy just like going against the pros. Like everything I have is so rehearsed and ready and da-da-da-da-da. But like, yeah, he'll just come up with an off-the-cuff remark and it'll really go out there. But yeah,
when you
Yeah,
say
go
going
ahead.
against the pros, I mean, how do you? I don't know. Can you? I mean, if are you a double A all-star? I mean, trying to use the baseball analogy, where are you
Okay.
in the?
Yeah, baseball would be a good analogy. Yeah, there's power and respect would be like single A, double A, and then you have Battle of the Zay, which is in the same area. That'd be like double A. Then there's King of the Dot, Ground Zero. That would be triple A. And then there's King of the Dot, and that's kind of like the majors. That's in Toronto. And yeah, I would say single A for me. Like I really have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm learning. You know what I mean? I mean, the big thing to me is just learning about something. In poker, there's a lot of people that say like, oh, you said that, so I really think it's probably true. And then I go, well, I could totally be wrong. You know what I mean? You should check me. Whereas the great thing about battle rap is I will hear from everybody what I did wrong. But that's great because you can just reapply it and get better, keep doing it, and keep doing something that's creative and fun. But yeah, power and respect probably their highest. That battle league is probably like AAA. They had one guy on their Real Deal. If you ever want to watch some amazing battles, that guy's incredible, and he would be like major league. So they've had like major league battles before, but yeah, typically I battle in single A. I guess if we're gonna go with the baseball analogy.
Where will you be in 2 years if this is like
double A, triple A, hopefully, you know what I mean? But it's one of those things like you can keep upping your punch count, but like I can write punchlines that are funnier and like harder hitting than 99% of those guys out there. But you got to learn how to rap at some point. If you're going to rap, so it's a lot more, it's a lot of showing up at house parties and just spitting. You know what I mean? It's a lot of just getting in a cipher and spitting, right? And like I haven't done it because in Costa Rica, it's all in Spanish and I hate the rap culture around here. So, it's all about, I had sex with this chick without a condom. It's like, okay, good for you, buddy. Like, wow, that's a great thing to tell kids in this country. We're not quite overpopulated enough. No, I mean, hopefully a couple years AAA, but I got to learn how to rap, man. I got to humble myself. I got to learn, and I got to listen a lot. So it's going to take time.
A couple of your recent podcasts, for the first time you were, talking about how busy you were in the work. You kind of suggested that this was maybe a sign of madness as much of anything else.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, what is the? Well,
yeah,
I saw your wife's in a band too, so maybe she has the kind of same artistic drive. But I mean, does this drive her crazy? I guess would be more the.
Oh yeah, no, she thinks I'm nuts, but I mean, no, it's definitely no. At some point. You get in it, I don't know. The only way I can answer this is with a real answer, and it's one of those things that's pretty tough. And I mean, there's been friction in our marriage too because there's times it's one of those things. You get married in your 20s, and in your 20s you don't have anything. You know what I mean? So you're trying to eventually you want like the house and the kids and everything, and you want that, but you're working a lot, and yeah, it can become. When you work at a company, like when I worked security, I showed up, and when I left, that was it. It wasn't like they were going to call me in. There was another guy who took over my post, right? When it comes to poker, the game is always there, and there's always somebody else working on it. So you really do at some point, there's a reason a lot of like chess masters are schizophrenics. They just spend all their days in front of a screen playing matches across the world and writing down notes, and eventually, you see them mumbling around Central Park trying to throw candied apples at people. And, I really have to, like...
And those are the ones who aren't institutionalized. Those are the ones who put themselves together.
Yeah, those are the ones with a few of their teeth that meth left them, And I mean, I don't know, you have to have, like, other things going on, otherwise you will go nuts. I mean, people do that, why do you run so much, right? And it's like, I'm running from crazy. Like there's a lot of mental illness in my family, right? And a lot of people in my family have different ways of getting over that, or did have different ways of getting over that weren't exercise. But if I run the streets for an hour or two, it seems the crazy goes away, and then I can come back. But yeah, I mean, it's a struggle. Like every single day. I mean, there's a cost to everything you do, and then a lot of people do that. I want to be really great at poker. And it's like, well, why? Well, I want to make money. Every time somebody says that to me, I say, go get a job at McDonald's. I'm dead serious. In 2 years at McDonald's, you will most likely have a managerial position, which averages $50,000 a year. After 3 or 4 years in poker, the average salary is about $40,000. Now, if you leverage that in Thailand or Costa Rica, you will be a very rich person. If you're living just outside of Portland, you know what I mean, where you go in and try to get one of those green teas, and it's like those dollar green teas that have a $4 sticker pasted over the 99 cents part, you're going to have a bit of a problem, and so, I like to get better at poker. I really like sitting at a poker table and feeling ahead of everybody. That's really intoxicating to me. But yeah, at some point you pay for it, and it was just lately I have. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, looking at the blog, I saw the one where you had the pictures of walking in the woods with all your dogs.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
and man, I was thinking, how long does someone like this, can they do that before they're desperate to end it so they can go back home and do whatever it is, get back to work?
Oh, man. Honestly, I could be out there, for 3 hours just listening to an audiobook or something like that. But, in social situations, especially in Costa Rica where I have to use Spanish and, my Spanish isn't that great, I get exhausted so much more in parties and stuff like that. And yeah, at some point, I'm I'm going to go read a book in the corner. You all drink all my liquor, chill, sleep wherever you want. Just leave me alone. Right. And then people are like, oh, Alex is cool. But then at some point people are like, Alex never wants to hang out. And it's like, yeah, it's not.
You're like, you can crap on my floor, just don't say cold Corvette, or I'll just kick your ass.
Yeah, exactly. I'll come out and we will scrap. Yeah, exactly. No, it's different. It's definitely a different way of living. You know what I mean? And a lot of people come into poker because they don't fit anywhere else. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Yeah. When you meet Americans in Costa Rica, they're always the weirdest people in the world. And people go, why is that? I'm like, well, they didn't fit in the States, so they left for a reason, and it's the same thing with poker. It's like a lot of these people didn't do that well in a business setting or an educational setting. I definitely, I was into all the, contact sports and metal and all that stuff, and I wasn't good at school, so I got into this. But that doesn't mean, anybody ever taught me balance or taught me how to take care of myself. That's all stuff I'm learning 10 years later from when I started, and it's pretty tough, That's why I tell everybody, keep your job, keep going to school. That'll educate you much more in the ways of the real world than poker ever will. And then if you do get that big win in poker, and it happens every single day, people walk in off the street, they're firefighters or they're accountants or what have you, and they crush a poker tournament. That's because they've been quietly plodding away for 4 years. That happens all the time. And then if you get that money, you're not going to lose that money. Whereas you guys have seen a lot of poker kids that, they make $3 million 1 year, and then 5 years later you hear them asking for a steak at the Horseshoe, and you're like, oh my Lord, what just happened? It's because they're just reaching for the sky to verify themselves through gambling. It's just, that's a horrible way to vilify yourself. You have to get out in the real world. Volunteer work is where it's at. If you go volunteer at a soup kitchen, you see people coming in and they can't track where they are, and you literally have to put the dish in their hands and be like, okay, now you can go. You have the dish. Then you realize, oh yeah, I'm running way above expectation right now. I can chill. I can go home and chill right now.
Well, the other little thing that jumped out, I just took a little note. I thought was pretty funny. Alex was at a I forget where it was. It was some sort of, you might have gone to some band. Well, you're like, the band was great, but I was surrounded, there was hipsters everywhere, all these insufferable little shits. And it occurred to me, here you are, you're a multilingual guy living abroad. You like independent movies. You like rap. Are you not hip?
No, I'm not, man. I'm an old and angry and white. As I tell everybody, you come to my property in Costa Rica, I got the full beard and a shotgun. I'm like, welcome. I'm just kidding.
I was thinking that's the first thing that occurred to me. Is there could be some bloody revolution going outside your house, and you'd be like, I got to go blog about this. But if three guys in Seahawk jerseys walk by wearing fedoras, you'd be like, honey, get my gun.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go. We're gonna do this. No, a lot of it is just I hate people that treat people poorly. And there's so many, like, the hipster thing is bizarre to me. Because, like, okay, let me tell you where I'm from. I'm from Seattle back when it was an industrial city, right? My stepfather worked with steel. My father was a fisherman. And I was a fisherman, too. So when I wore a plaid shirt and a beard, it was because I was freezing my ass off in the middle of Bristol Bay. You know what I mean? I was working 90-hour weeks. So when I see these kids, dress in their, like they're going out hunting, and it's like, oh no, these tacos aren't vegan. I just, oh my God, like I don't care who you are, but like, it's so fake to me. You know what I mean? It's like, go out there, get a skill, and then talk to me about it. That is so much more engaging to me than pretending like you know everything. And then that, I don't know, arrogance as well pisses me off. I get along with every normal Costa Rican. I have conversations with I sound like Donald Trump. I have a club where anybody can come in. Anybody, white, black, anyone. No, but like, my Twitter was amazing. Like every rapper, like, bruh, he just bragged about allowing black people into his club, right? And then, but like, no, I mean, like, if I'm talking to the baker, I can talk to the baker. If I'm talking to the taxi driver, I can talk to the taxi driver. I get along with 90% of people in Costa Rica. It's just, there are certain places that are frequented by how do you pronounce that word? The intelligentsia, I think, is the big word they use, right? And
then, I think we've got the same attitude. That, I mean, my sister lives in Brooklyn, and like all her friends are just cool and smart and stuff. And like my brother-in-law is really smart. I mean, like if he listens to this, but like once we were talking about some movie I really like, he's like, it's terrible. I'm like, no, and then he just says, watch it again.
Really?
So it wasn't a matter of personal opinion. It's like there's certain places, I'm sure Seattle's like that now, where it's there's the collective wisdom of having the answer.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you're probably people who are extremely self-satisfied and just feel like they just know what everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And that's bizarre to me as a poker player because my entire job is not knowing anything. It's doubting myself daily, right? So then, and it's always bizarre to me, like the poker players can be some of the worst at this. They'll pay me thousands of dollars because I have opinions on poker that are different than the vast majority. Then they'll ask me about my politics, and they will be absolutely aghast. It is different than the vast majority, right? And that the following the crowd and acting like you're alternative, like it's bizarre to me. Like also, like when I was into metal, it was all like I hate the government, and I still do hate the government. I'm very libertarian in that way. I obviously understand it's really nice. We have a hurricane center right now in Florida, and we're not just hiring a bunch of guys randomly in the libertarian style at the last second to do something. But at the same time, I hated the government. I hated a lot of the policies of the United States. I hated a lot of, the typical, like, live your life like this. And now all these same people that I was in the metal scene with are these flaming socialists trying to make the government as big as humanly possible. And they're just right. You know what I mean? I'm like, 10 years ago, I remember you being exactly the opposite of this. You hated the government. You had completely different things to say. And now you're, it's like 1984. It's like double think. No. We were always fighting with Oceania. Right. Always, and then that always just bugs me because it's really disingenuous. It's the same thing. Like I'm a practicing Christian, but when I hear Christians that just crap on everybody saying like, how dare you not believe in Christ? It's like, dude, like that's a super personal thing. And it's the same thing with atheists. It's like, you don't know, dude. Like, don't do that smug, like I'm better than you because I read Dawkins. Ha ha ha. And it's like, okay, that's pretty bizarre, but yeah, anyway, I'm just ranting as per usual. Sorry, you guys got to put up with me. How much do I have to pay for this therapy?
I know you're like voracious reader. Have you read On the Road with Kerouac?
No, I haven't. You know what? I actually got it on my audiobooks. I was gonna listen to it on a walk. How is it?
Yeah, it's a great book, but there's again from your blog. There's like you brought it. You had some old picture of you in Europe, and you're like, I don't care. I love life. I love experience. I love food. I love new people, and that it felt like it was taken right out of Kerouac there.
Oh,
you know
nice.
what I mean? Like, so the whole book is just about love and life experience, but it is kind of interesting. Kerouac was the quintessential beat, and friends with Ginsberg and this whole crew. But he really turned against him and became kind of a reactionary. He's like, these guys,
Really?
they totally gave it up. They want fame and power, and they were just frauds from the. But he came. It's kind of funny here. Now
I want to check it out, man. No, I mean that's
Kerouac's very interesting, but like he, Anyway, well, I'll just say on the road. That will be your book, man. I really think so.
I'm going to check it out. No, I like that. I like that philosophy of like just trying to get experiences because, like, if two people are standing next to each other, like one person can hand $40 to the other person. It's like, wow, you have $40. But if you have an experience, you can't hand that to another person. That's something you had to like come with. You know what I mean? And then it's the same thing with knowledge. You know what I mean? It has to be gained, and it's just like exercise. Like, it doesn't matter how much money Lady Gaga has. She still has to wake up at 5 a.m. and run her ass on that treadmill like everybody else. And it's the same thing with knowledge and your mind, your body, everything. And it sounds like I want to check out that book. It sounds like it's up my alley. And I like reactionaries who are super angry, as you can probably tell. So I'm going to check this out.
Does not get this. This is young Kerouac, but it is interesting.
This is him happy.
But this is him happy, but he rebels against the people. You can smell. Maybe you'll sense this is young you essentially.
before I get surly. Yeah. That sounds good. No, that sounds good. I'm gonna check it out.
Can I digress for 1 second here? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask about ACR. I forgot.
Yes, sir.
Which sponsors you, right?
I write for them and stuff. I don't know what the specific term for sponsorship is. Okay. You know what I mean? I think that means
this isn't an ambush question, but it is interesting that on your podcast you're talking about it's the softest site, the best site.
Yes, sir.
And well, I'm personally not doing very well on there. And I've heard a lot of people say that it's really tough. I mean,
there are specific games that are tough that a lot of the pros gravitate to. That's true.
I mean, the MTTs, I mean, this isn't the 27 Yankees I play for, but the guy who backs me and backs another player, this group of players is like making one big blind per 100 playing the MTTs there. Really on Party Poker, 888, everywhere else, it's better. This is the worst site.
All right.
So I'm not telling people to stay away from it. I'm just curious,
I would certainly be very concerned if those were the stats I had as well, but that's generally not what I've seen. You do see a lot of I think you're seeing a lot of the old school American regs come in, and my guess is are you playing a lot of like daytime tournaments?
No, I'm playing, I mean, I stopped. I mean, doing the weekend, the high value, the $100, $200 tournaments. I mean, they're big series. I played the 1K.
Oh, nice.
I satellite into that. And, nice. I mean, I'm probably not playing optimally, but this is just the consensus amongst other people too, is just whether it's Euros, VPNing or Americans, it's just,
really?
Yeah, it's playing like Poker Stars. It's playing like Poker Stars these days.
Oh, hell. Let's not say things we can't take back.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. But no, I mean.
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, are you putting any volume there? I mean, how are your results?
I have not the last 3 weeks.
Just 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. When I do play on there, I could see where you guys get that because randomly I'll run into an American guy who's playing like 25-50. Now he's just bumming it around at 1-2 or 2-4.
Okay. Yeah. I'm only MTTs I'm talking about.
Okay. And MTTs, I am dumbfounded. You're having that kind of the structures are a little faster. So that certainly increases. Have you guys taken a look at your EV big blind per 100? Because it's really possible just, when the blinds got up a few times, you guys, what I mean?
My EV is one. I'm running it like -3.
Right.
20,000 hands. I'm supposed to be running it +1.
That's the other thing. 20,000 hands. I mean,
that's not a lot.
No. Well, okay, it's not a lot, but if you play every single Hold'em event in a scoop, that's going to be about 5,000 hands. So that's 4 scoops together, which is a lot. But I've seen databases where a guy over 370,000, 500,000, a million hands is run bad, right? In like tens of thousands of big blinds under expectation. Remember what we said at the beginning. This is gambling. It's hustling at some point, and so weird things do happen. My guess is a couple of your boys in your stable. I'm guessing I'm guessing you guys are going to have like some really good months, and then America's Card Room is going to be amazing. I'm going to guess you got some bad table draws. I'm going to guess it's actually probably getting a little tougher because it has, I like the software quite a bit on America's Card Room, and good players like good software because they have to put up with it all the time. So I'm sure it does attract a lot of regs, but still on those weekend tournaments, I see some dumbfounding bad play.
Right.
On like Sundays on America's Card Room are incredible, and then they can just rebuy like 6 times. You know what I mean? And they just they do that quite a bit. But no, I see your point. I mean,
I guess like when any poker player, when I'm running bad, I could become bitter. There'd be like a day where I would deposit, lose 3,000 on ACR over like a 10-day period. Then I'll listen to your podcast. Hey, guess what the softest site is? I'm like, fuck you, rich boy.
No, that would definitely make sense. But in my experience, like if you're playing like stateside, you're not going to do better for like learning about your game, right? I mean, I understand on those anonymous sites, some people like those sites more, but like you can't track anything. You don't know what you're doing versus a lot of people. So if you want to autopilot for like 6 hours, it's amazing. You're not going to learn anything though. Whereas I find America's Card Room is a little tougher when it comes to like some of these daily tournaments. There's like a bunch of regs that are really good. But like when it comes to like some of these bigger open are like those $50 tournaments at, Are you messing with me? You're really saying they're tough because like those 50 and 100s, like a lot of times I'll final table and I feel like I did nothing out of the ordinary. I called a guy from the big blind, I check raise, and the guy went, "What do I do now?" And I'm like, I can't believe this is still working. And the guy folds, and then magically I'm at the final table a little later. And I'm always, I don't know, I hear this like, I think, here's the thing. There's some strategies that got me ahead of Poker Stars 2 years ago for, when I got the W Coupe second chance win and stuff like that. And that stuff still works in rakes money hand over fist when it comes to America's Card Room. Most people will know, have an idea what you're doing on Poker Stars now. So that's kind of my metric for how soft it is. My guess is you need a couple of these strategies to do well. Like, when you 3-bet, do you 3-bet to take the lead in the hand? Let's talk about that. This is a really old school strategy. Do you do that when you play in America's Card Room? Like, do you 3-bet with the intention?
Yeah, I try. Okay. I mean, I try to not flat in middle late position if with especially with 3-betters and squeezers behind me. If I'm going to see a flop, I want to take the lead.
Okay, so that's good because like what a lot of Americans are doing is like a guy opens from middle position, they flat the button like everybody used to do like 4 years ago or right around Black Friday. And when America's Card Room started, the big blind would fold and the small blind would fold, and you'd have a heads up pot, and it would be just like pre-Black Friday. Then a lot of the guys came in from other sites and they started flatting from the big blind. You have these multi-way pots. So most of the Americans that I see busting, they'll have like king, queen, offsuit, they flat, the small blind flats, the big blind flats. They play this 4-way pot with an easily dominated hand, hit a hand that turns out to be dominated because in a multi-way pot, typically what's going to win is going to be better than 2 pair. And that 1 pair just ends up costing them a ton of money. So if you're using that strategy, it's really going to hand you your ass at some point. And it's really weird because I won't open ace-jack offsuit from under the gun anymore when it comes to like America's Card Room or any site, right? Because I'm just going to squeeze, you're going to get 3-bet, something's going to happen, right? And then, however, if somebody opens from under the gun, I'm 3-betting ace-10 a lot of the time because for value, because a lot of these kids think they can just be gangsters still, and they're opening like 10-7 suited from under the gun. And I see a lot of people not like retaking the lead. Like your 3-bet semi-bluff is now your open. Your 3-bet semi-bluff is everything. It's another obligatory big blind when you're playing with the Americans who, like I saw Action Jeff 10 years ago open in early position wide, and I'm going to do it too. There was like 4 years where you could open from under the gun and everybody would just go, oh crap. That's like ace, queen plus, nines plus, and everybody would fold. And there's a lot of American regs who still think people think that way. So they open their 10-7 suited, and you can call them and hopefully hit the board in a multi-way pot. But if you end up 3-betting a lot more than you used to in old years, I think you'll probably end up doing better. That's one adjustment I would do. When people are 2xing your blind, you call a lot more. And a lot of people the bottom falls out on their turn double barrel. frequency. It goes to like 30, 40%. So you can flat once a lot of times versus a lot of American regs if you can identify that stat. And if they're opening too much and c-betting too much, you can check raise more. And still a disproportionate amount of players do not know what to do with a donk bet. So I still think it's soft. But
I'm sure I'm behind you, and there's probably a lot of leaks in my game, and I'm probably been spoiled for doing well on some other sites. But
right, and I mean that's the thing, though. I mean, you could just be running bad, but why not use this as an excuse to make sure you can be more of a badass next time it runs in your favor? You know what I mean? And then, you can teach everybody in your stable. Then you can kill, man. You can make the games as tough as we were talking about in 6 months. You know, but no, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know, most people are lazy when it comes to tournament poker. They just want to go in and they want to see what happens. And there's a lot of people on America's Card Room who come from that sports book that's all they're doing. They're just firing it in and hoping that it happens. I don't know. Keep the faith, sir. I believe it'll turn around. Keep the faith. But I see it has changed, though. Let's hear
quickly before we go to the specific hand, too. If I can ask, one is, and maybe related to the book, too, the Assassinato HUD.
Yes,
I'm assuming there's some, you go into detail how to use that in the book, or?
Yeah, I use my HUD, but like you could program those numbers into anything. You'll need NoCaddy and you'll need Hold'em Manager. I really think you should buy the HUD that I had made for me because it took the guy who made it about 300 plus hours. So like, there's a bunch of explanations on how to use it. I try to keep with the numbers you could get from like Poker Copilot, Poker Tracker, anything that way. Or even numbers you could just mentally keep track of, right? Like, it's pretty easy to go, well, that guy, that's the fourth time I've seen that guy in the turn. He hasn't fired yet. Like, that's a thought a lot of us have if we're actually paying attention, right? And you can convert that into something. But actually, I'm going to start playing a lot more online. I've had a few projects that were taking all my life, blood, and soul over the last couple of months. And I wish I could talk about them, but essentially all I'm going to say is I was with lawyers all the time. And it's amazing with lawyers. It's like, okay, here's 3 pages. Now pay me $800. Like, wow, I want to get paid $800 for 3 pages. Like, really? But
we could share some horror stories of my brother dealing with legal issues in Costa Rica. He lived there for a few years.
Oh, my God. Yeah, dude, you have no... Well, it's like, you send it in, like, you'll send something into the government here, and they'll be like, yeah, okay, so this is on the docket for like 2018. It's like, excuse me? They're like, well, if you want to move it up, you got to do this petition or whatever. And it's a joke. But yeah, anyhow, essentially, I'm going to start doing a lot
I saw Carlos.
I'm going to start. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I sat and kind of live sweat Carlos once in the hotel room while he was using your HUD. And if you have the Carlos endorsement, that counts for something, obviously.
Yes, it does. I got the Jonathan Little endorsement, too. He uses it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's...
there seems to be a great emphasis on the RFI stats.
Yeah, RFI is a really big deal. If you see a guy is opening, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just kind of interesting. I've never seen such prominence in when someone does their head setup. It's usually, VPIP, 3-bet, fold to C-bet.
Right.
Right at the top of your screen, you got all the RFI. Is that...
RFI on every single position.
Yeah, how'd you decide that should be such prominent?
Well, it's kind of like your RFI is the base of your pyramid. If your base is faulty, the entire thing's going to fall down. We used to see guys opening 15% of their hands from under the gun when I was playing 6-max. When I was playing 6-max back, I was never a good cash game player, by the way. I just bum hunted at 1-2 and 2-4 when I needed money. And essentially, if they open to 15% of the hands, there's a lot of boards where, like, if you check raise them the size of the pot, that'll need to work 50% of the time, and they will not have top pair or better like 64% of the time. And there's a lot of guys that there's a lot of guys that on a King 8-7 board have never done anything with jacks ever. Now, check raise is just one strategy. You can also call them down, wait till they give up, and then blast. You can call to raise the turn. That's a play some people like to do with their flush draws. But essentially, it all starts with the guy opening too many hands. You have a guy opening too many hands. It is really hard to get 2 cards to connect with 3 or 4 cards. And that is kind of the art of No Limit Hold'em, is if you can identify they're using too many hands, you're going to know they're missing all the time. And that's when you can start applying pressure. And yeah, I'm going to start doing some videos that I'm going to upload to YouTube where I'm going to show people how I'm using that HUD. I think I'm going to do a lot of one-tabling because... when I one table, I actually have a lot of fun when I'm recording the videos. But if I'm like two tabling, I'm like, okay, and now I'm looking over at this, now I'm looking at that, and then 45 minutes later, I'm like, kill me, I'm so tired. I can't do this anymore.
Supersonic speed that I used to run to you. I stretched my arms for miles and miles and wrapped them all.
Well, hope you guys enjoyed that interview. We can go on to the strategy section here. I went over this with Alex, and we got to shooting back and forth, and I should have recorded it. I didn't, but I can hit on some of the highlights on these hands for you guys. So this is a tournament on ACR. It's a $30 buy-in, I believe, 30 or 33, and then the next hand, I believe, is a $22 buy-in, but you know, around the same ballpark. Middle buy-in. Okay, so we have pocket sevens. A guy to our right, he is under the gun +1, and he has 5 big blinds. And so it folds to him, and he shoves his 5 big blinds, and we're very next to act, and we have pocket sevens. We've got 25 big blinds, and the people behind us have 60, 64, 28, 25, and 23 big blinds for the player in the big blind. So we got 5 people left to act. And my question to Alex was basically, is this a shove or not? You know, I don't know if it's right to shove here, if it's right to fold. And he pretty much snap said, yeah, this is a reship. This is an easy reship, and you should be shipping this all day long. So I did. Luckily, I reshipped here. Unfortunately, the UTG +1 player had it this time. He had aces, so we get knocked down to 20 big blinds. But he said that's a reship all day long. So that was an interesting one. Then there's another one here. I've got King Jack offsuit, King of Clubs, Jack of Spades. You're going to need to remember the suits here, especially the King of Clubs. So hero is on the button, and it folds to us. Blinds are 125, 250, and with antes totaling 175, we got a total pot of 550. We start the hand with 26 bigs. The small blind has 28 bigs, and the big blind has 43. We don't have a big sample on the small blind. He's a 17-0 over 12 hands. He's an unknown. And then the other guy, we have 100 hands on him, and he's a 19-13. Defending the big blind 1 out of 2 times, so 50%. I'm sorry, 2 out of 4 times, so 50%. So that's what we got to go on. We raise it up to a little bit more than 3x. We make it 777. 750 would be 3x. We go Scotia over that. And both blinds call. The small blind calls and the big blind calls. I think for an unknown in the small blind, his calling range there is probably going to be a lot of broadways, maybe even on ACR. Alex was saying a lot of these guys will be calling in the small blind with things like 5-6 of hearts, 8-9, 9-10, you know, suited connectors, suited one-gappers, and even just 2 connecting cards. He wouldn't be surprised at all to see that. And then for the big blind, even wider. Knowing that range, and we again have the King of Clubs and the Jack of Spades, the total pot is 2,500. We've got 5,700 left in our stack, which is the effective stack. And the flop is Ace of Clubs, Jack of Clubs, 10 of Spades. So we got the backdoor nut flush draw. We have a gut shot. A queen would give us a straight. It'd be a 4-card straight, so it might be tough to get paid off, but it could win us the pot. And we got middle pair. So we've got a pretty good hand with the showdown here. Small blind checks, big blind checks, and now it's on us. And my question to Alex was, is this a spot to bet, or, you know, is this a better check behind? And he instantly said, yeah, this is a check behind. You know, you have a decent amount of showdown value. If one of the players is checking an ace here, he could check jam on you, and then it's a pretty gross spot where you know, bet half pot, and then now you got to fold with a hand with so much showdown value, and then you've got the redraws as well. The jack is probably going to give you the best hand. 2-pair could as well, but then you've got to play the game with do they have a queen or not. And a club is a good card. So that's what we do. We check behind as well. And the turn brings an 8 of hearts. So again, we've got king of clubs, jack of spades. And the board now is ace of clubs, jack of clubs, 10 of spades, 8 of hearts. So the 8 probably doesn't change a whole heck of a lot, unless maybe a player had... actually, it could change it quite a bit. Anyhow, the small blind bets 1,000 into 2,500. The big blind folds, and now it's on us. And my question to Alex here was, is this a call or not? And he said pretty quickly, this guy's so intelligent when it comes to poker. He said pretty quickly, he's all, yeah, this is a call. He said, now, had they bet something like 1,500, he said, I could see you squeaking out a fold here. And he said, but for an unknown in the small blind, when the 8 comes, he said, now a 9 is open-ended. There's a lot of cards in here. He could have Queen Jack for a gut shot and a pair. He thought that the player could be betting 2 clubs here. He could be betting a weak ace, but the odds that we're getting, the pot is now 3,500, and we got 57 behind. We could call 1,000 here, so we're getting 4.5 to 1, and we might have the best hand. He said it's not uncommon for these unknowns on ACR to bet something like 8-9 here. They could. Said it's not uncommon for him to bet like 8-9 here, 9-10. There's a lot of hands that he might lead out with there that we either have a whole bunch of equity against or we have the best hand. I ended up folding. I thought that, I don't know what I thought in the moment. I guess I just had a feeling that I was beat, and so I let it go. But Alex pretty quickly let me know that, no, you're getting too good of odds here. Even if you're only beat half the time, you're still printing money here by calling. So anyhow, that should have been a call. But live and learn. Well, if you guys want to get in contact with Alex to ask him questions, send him emails. He replies to all his emails. He said, he gets over 100 in a few days, and he replies to all of them. So if you want to get in contact with him, go to pokerheadrush.com. If you want to watch Mike's Twitch stream, hit him up, email him. He sells sweaters and cell phone cases. Go to RampagePoker.com. And if you want Alex's book, like I do, go to the link in the show notes. He's got it in paperback, and he has it in Kindle. The new paperbacks, I'll tell you the price right now is $25.66. That could go up or down a little bit. You guys know me, I sell on Amazon, so I was looking at the reviews, and more importantly than that, I was looking at the rankings of the book. I won't touch a book, I won't sell it if it has a ranking of greater than 500,000. And right now, Alex's book, the ranking is, it's bouncing between 15 and 20,000, and it's bouncing between number 4 and number 7 as far as the number 1 seller in poker books. So people like it. They're giving it great reviews. People are buying it, and I can't wait to get it. So you can get it in paperback. You can also get it in Kindle if that's your thing. And they have books that are used like new, which are basically damn near brand new books with the restrictions that Amazon has on selling books. When you get a book that's used like new, it's basically a new book. It may just have a sticker on it or something. So yeah, you guys can check that out. Click on the link in the show notes. Throw a little love back to the podcast, and throw a little love to Alex. When everyone's beak, everyone wins, and you get better at poker, and you win more money. See, it's just a win-win. But that's it for this week. I will talk to you next week, and here is your weekly motivational speech.
Unless you attempt to do something beyond that which you've already mastered, you will never grow. And so you want to begin to take some chances. You want to begin to challenge yourself and make it okay to fail and learn from your failures. Don't allow fear of failure and the allure, the attractiveness of playing it safe in life to draw you in. You'll discover some things about yourself that you don't know right now. You can't get out of life alive. You got to die to leave here. See, most people stop short of their dreams and park and get off the highway of life because of the rejections of life. You will always be rejected. You must be willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. See, once you commit yourself, the how will come, the way will come.